There is a particular burden that black men in Britain know all too well. A burden older than any football club, older than any committee, older than any policy or code of conduct. It is the burden of stereotype. The quiet, corrosive force that turns calm into aggression, confidence into threat, and presence into intimidation. And in the months that followed the harassment of M.A., that burden was placed squarely on the shoulders of one man, Ossie Akushie. Now understand this clearly. Ossie was not a stranger to the club. He was not a volatile figure. He was not a man with a history of misconduct. For nearly a decade, he had been a coach, a parent helper, a mentor. He had guided children, supported families, and built relationships across the community. His record was spotless. But when the retaliation machine at Baldwicktown Youth Football Club needed a narrative, when it needed a justification for the unjustifiable, it reached for the oldest, laziest, most destructive trope available. They cast him as the aggressive black man. Not through evidence, not through behavior, through assumption. And assumption, when wielded by those in authority, becomes a weapon. The club's leadership, Chairman Juan Cowell, welfare officer Sean Smith, and under-11 manager Jason Kitchener, began to reinterpret Ossie's every action through the lens of that stereotype. Standing with other parents became intimidation. Watching his daughter train became staring intently. Speaking calmly became aggression. Being present became a threat. Meanwhile, the white parents and coaches standing beside him, doing the same things in the same spaces, were treated as harmless, ordinary, unremarkable. This is how racial bias operates. Not always through slurs or explicit hostility, but through the quiet recalibration of perception. Through the presumption that a black man's neutrality is dangerous while a white man's behavior is benign. And the comparisons were stark. Jason Kitchener, whose conduct toward Ossie had been openly hostile, was treated as an equal party in a dispute. Sean Smith, who had been disciplined 3 times during his own coaching tenure, was rewarded with a promotion to the committee. Ossie, with no disciplinary record, no history of conflict, no evidence of wrongdoing, was expelled without due process. This was not coincidence. This was not oversight. This was a pattern rooted in stereotype. A pattern the Equality Act recognizes as direct race discrimination. But the consequences did not fall on Ossie alone. When the club expelled him, they expelled his children, Kristian and Maria, as well. Not because of anything they had done, not because of any behavior on their part, but because of their association with their father. This is one of the most painful truths in discrimination cases. When institutions target a parent, they often harm the children as collateral. Kristian, a quiet, well-liked young man with an exemplary record. Maria, a bright, enthusiastic girl who won player-voted awards every season she played. Both removed from their teams, both cut off from their friends, both punished for the club's perception of their father. And let us be clear, this was not an administrative decision. This was not a safeguarding measure. This was a deliberate act of exclusion, a message sent through the children to break the resolve of the parents. But the Akushie family did not break. They felt the weight of stereotype, yes. They felt the sting of injustice, yes. But they did not bow to it. Instead, they documented every incident. They analyzed every decision. They prepared themselves for the legal battle ahead. Because when a black father is confronted with a system that seeks to define him through prejudice, he has 2 choices: to shrink or to stand. And Ossie stood. He stood for his dignity. He stood for his wife. He stood for his children. He stood for every black parent who has ever been told, implicitly or explicitly, that their presence is a threat. And as the club escalated its actions, as the discrimination deepened, as the retaliation grew more brazen, the Akushie's resolve only strengthened. But the next chapter in their story would take the conflict beyond discrimination. It would enter the realm of harassment, a campaign so sustained, so invasive, so reckless, that it would shake the very foundations of their safety. Because when those in power cannot silence you through stereotype, they often turn to intimidation. And that is where the story goes next.